Welcome to the GenX Experience, the podcast that celebrates the unique journey of 80s kids navigating midlife. I'm your host, Blythe Alperin. Each episode, my guests and I will share with you the unique differences that define our generation and how we are navigating those differences in the real world. Join me for laughs, insights, and a sense of community. Let's embrace the GenX Experience together. It's August 1st, 1981, midnight, and television history is about to be made with the introduction of a channel dedicated solely to music. And Gen X is about to be known as the MTV Generation. And MTV is getting started with the most iconic, perfect way to launch a music television channel with the Buggles' Video Killed the Radio Star. And if you are not singing that in your head right now, you might want to turn in your Gen X card because really. Anyway, welcome back to the Gen X Experience. Welcome to episode 37, a new month. We are in September. And if you haven't guessed, the theme of this month is the MTV Generation. What inspired this theme is MTV, the first week of September, has been playing music videos on MTV2 and MTV Classic in celebration leading up to the VMAs. So weird that they're still on. On the 7th, LL Cool J is hosting, which is, I mean, hello, he's a Gen Xer. By the way, I saw him in person in New York, and I'm lucky I didn't walk into traffic. That man, stunning. And also he's like iconic, right? He was iconic on MTV. So yes, they're playing videos. I've been watching them much to Buster's dismay. I'm trying not to sing to them because my dog hates my singing. My feelings are hurt, but you know, he's adorable and cute and sweet. So we'll just let him get away with not liking my singing for now. So yes, because of that, I was like, this is the perfect time to talk about being the MTV generation. So we're going to have 3 episodes starting off here with just me. I'm going to have a guest. I was on her podcast and we started talking about music. We went from perimenopause music and I was like, you know what? You should come on my podcast. Let's talk about MTV. So when you're listening to this, I will be recording that episode. And then we're going to finish the month when fall officially kicks off by looking back at summer. We're going to do a new series, trying it out. That's going to be seasonal. And so this episode will be called Cruel Summer to keep in touch with the music theme. And also because what was summer besides hot? There were some crazy things that happened. We lost a lot of icons, some of them problematic. I turned another year old. Things went on. We're gonna talk about this. We're gonna do like seasonally. I will also be announcing our first book club pick. And if you are not following us on social media, we are the GenX Experience Pod on Instagram and TikTok. You should be following us, tuning in, because I will be posting the final poll so you can pick. I'm going to narrow it down to like 3 or 4 choices. I want to do something kind of fall spooky-ish because, I mean, hello, it's September. Spooky season is coming up. Thanksgiving is coming up. We are finally getting temperatures that aren't going to make us melt. The leaves are changing. We're in pumpkin spice season. We're in apple and cinnamon season. Football has started, and my teams have won. The Gators won when they were playing an easy team, and Ohio State won. Because, yes, I'm a Buckeye by birth, literally born at The Ohio State University, and I went to University of Florida. So we have T-shirts for both. And basically, my sister and brother and I were raised that if we went to Michigan, my dad was going to disown us. And I do not think he was joking. I really don't. He would sit us down when we were little and play the Ohio State marching band. He had a record. I still have them, and make us listen to them. So like round on the ends, high in the middle. Don't you think that's quite a real? Yes, I'm not joking. Like it was serious business. Football was serious business in our house. You could hear my mother every weekend screaming at the TV, whether it was college or professional. So I'm very excited that fall's starting. Kids are back in school. Yeah, lots of things. I've already seen a couple Halloween decorations because here in Atlanta, people go nuts. It's a little early. But I'm excited to see that. So yeah, I think we're going to pick a book that maybe is not too scary. We'll see. You guys might get me to actually read my first Stephen King book. I'm just not a horror girl, even though, of course, I watch like, Nightmare on Elm Street, but whatever. But I've never read Stephen King. I have seen, of course, Stand By Me, which was inspired by his short story. And I did watch the show Haven, which was sci-fi, but it was inspired by the Colorado Kid. So I love sci-fi, big sci-fi fan, but not really horror. So maybe we'll you guys have given me some suggestions, so we will narrow it down. I just want to make sure the book we pick is still like available to be purchased or checked out at the library or listened to. And we're not going to have to like read it in a month. I will give us time because we are adulting, and adulting is annoying and it requires our attention on multiple things. And I want this book club to be fun, not torture. So um, I will also probably post the final poll on our next episode so that you can vote. But again, go to Instagram, go to TikTok, the GenX Experience Pod. Also, I do have some of those connected to Facebook. So if you are friends with me on Facebook, I might post the final poll there too. But I'm excited to like start some new things. We are a top 10% podcast. I hope to get that up more. You know, we are loved by AARP. We are doing things, and I'm still so enjoying this little project of mine. So let's get back to MTV, right? It was up until till then, the only way you could really see videos was Friday night videos. And the only way you could really see your favorite artist perform, if you weren't like allowed to go to the concerts, like if you were little, was American Bandstand, Soul Train, or, you know, if there was like the Grammys, we would watch that, or, you know, concerts were broadcast on HBO. I remember watching Duran Duran because I love them. My dad bought me the cassette Seven and the Ragged Tiger, and because I was obsessed with Duran Duran, that and Prince. So my parents let me watch the concert because like I was too young to go. I remember I was watching it in their room, and there were some racy things like Girls on Film, and I was like, if mom and dad come in here, I'm not going to be allowed to watch this. I remember watching Hall & Oates. I remember watching Carly Simon. You know, we would see those performances. That was kind of the only way. So MTV gave us like an insight into our artists, like to see what they look like and how they performed, and to really see the artistry and the creativity of videos. Now, not all of them were good. Let me just tell you, some of the ones I've been watching, I'm like, so you just basically went to a club, or, you know, and you just kind of recorded yourself singing. Like there was Rod Stewart, you know, If You Think I'm Sexy. And I'm like, so he's just up there in the smallest, tightest leather pants performing. And then it would like switch to a bar scene where he's like picking up a woman, and then they go back to her place or his place and they're making out. And then they would stop and watch TV, basically watching him. Little weird. There was there was another video. Was it Foreigner? I can't remember, but it was a rock band, and they were just in a cage in a foggy room singing, acting all rock starish. You know what I'm talking about, in the way that rock stars like acted in the 80s and 90s. And then their fans were trying to break through the cage. I was like, wow, this is low budget. But then you had cool videos like, you know, Aha's Take on Me, Dire Straits, you know, Money for Nothing. We had the iconic performance of Aerosmith and Run DMC. You would get to see artists, you know, I was watching some videos this week, like Time After Time with Cyndi Lauper, and it was like a whole story, and which was cool, right? Seeing this whole video, like the lyrics and how they like interpret it into a story. And sometimes it was just performances. Sometimes they would record different concerts. I remember some Wham videos were like that, or Prince. There was like Raspberry Beret, and I mean, it's Prince. His videos were definitely memorable. There were some very like risque, you know, videos. Some that were like, "What is going on here?" Sometimes there were videos where there was no artist in there. It was just imagery. There was one that I was watching today, um, and it was just showing animals together. Like it was just, you know, and then like it was mixed with that and like old school movies of people kissing, like Fred Astaire and, you know, Marilyn Monroe, and just it was really interesting. And I will say the really cool thing this week about watching some of these videos was the way they made me feel. It was so, I would just be like watching them and they'd be in the background, I'd be working, and I was like, God, I just feel happy. Like physically, like just this feeling would come over me. And I was like, and just remembering the songs, there was the 90s hour on, and all I heard was the beginning, the first notes. And I'm like, that's Fatboy Slim, Christopher Walken. And I'm like, weapon of choice. And I just had to stop and watch that video because it was iconic. It was so cool. I actually saw him once in New York, and I think I called my sister and I'm like, I just saw Christopher Walken walking. I mean, I had to do it. And then the VMAs are coming up this weekend, and a very cool Gen Xer is hosting them by the name of LL Cool J, who I also saw in New York. My friend and I were walking to lunch or whatever, and across the street from our building was one of the record labels. I can't remember which one. And he came out the door, and can I just tell you, my friend and I, like, just dead stop. We're just staring. We did not care. We're like, oh my God, that man is stunning. And people were just staring. Because also he's like a very large guy. So, I mean, he's from Queens, New York. So it was just nice to see these videos and remember the joy they brought. And, remembering how we would come home from school and just turn on MTV and be in college and watch MTV. It would be in the background, or like you're getting ready and you have MTV on. And how we watched like 120 minutes because that was the alternative. And how Yo MTV Raps gave rap artists and hip hop artists a place to like showcase their artistry because they weren't really getting a lot of playtime on on radio yet. And we had Headbangers Ball. Was it Matt Penfield Headbangers Ball? Which was like metal, and we had Remote Control. We had Liquid Television. You know, we we had a dating show. Chris Hardwick and Jenny McCarthy. I mean, Jenny McCarthy, like, the fact that she has an influence on like our medical system to this day is crazy AF. And Chris Hardwick is still around doing stuff. He looks a little better because back then he's drinking. My brother-in-law, funny enough, cannot stand Chris Hardwick. We have like a little joke going on because, I actually was on one of Chris Hardwick's shows he did where he was interviewing celebrities, and I wrote in and I'm like, oh, and I got to ask a celebrity, James Corden, a question. And can I just tell you, it wasn't live. Like, I got to ask him the question and he answered it, and I recorded it, and they had me do it a couple times. I look like a dork and sound like a dork because they were like, get really animated and excited and whatever. And so I'm like, that's not really how I am, but okay. But it was still cool to do that. We kind of saw the launch of reality TV with The Real World. Like, I remember watching the first season of The Real World in college. Like, we were all watching it because it was so unique and epic. And all of us were like, oh my God, we could be on MTV and like they could record our lives. How cool would that be? Things got a little crazier. Like, I remember there was New York and then LA, Miami. I remember watching Miami and being in college. And I think it was like the last episode aired, and one of the people on it was Pedro. I think it's Pedro Zamora, if I'm correct. I could be wrong on his name, but his first name is definitely Pedro. And he had HIV and AIDS, and he actually died. I think the night before the last episode aired, and it was really just groundbreaking to see someone that was like in our age group who was gay and had contracted, AIDS, HIV and AIDS, which was like a huge threat to us as a kid. Like, we were like constantly being bombarded, like, better have safe sex, use condoms, have the conversation, get tested, because if you catch this, you could die. It was a death sentence back then. So there were some definitely iconic moments that happened. And the VMAs and TRL and having VJs, right? Like, this was like we had DJs who were on TV, so hence the video, disc jockeys or video jockeys. Like, they were like iconic, right? Martha Quinn and Mark Goodman. You can still hear some of them on Sirius XM, the 80s station, and then you can also hear Downtown Julie Brown on the 90s station. If you went to New York, you could see when they had TRL, it was like open, so you could see it. And I actually interviewed at MTV for like a copywriting job. I didn't even care if I got the job. I mean, I didn't, unfortunately. Like, I was hoping. I was just so excited to be considered and to get to go to the offices. I think it was like 2020 Broadway or whatever. I was just happy to be in the offices. I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. I got to be in the MTV offices. I would have loved to work there. Although at the time, I don't know how long it would have lasted because MTV was starting to change. I mean, we also got MTV Unplugged, right? Where we would have concerts, performances, like very intimate performances, stripped down performances from Nirvana and George Michael, and they were like iconic performances. It led to VH1, where we had pop-up videos and behind the music, which was so entertaining and so interesting. And it gave you an introduction to different music. Like if you weren't hearing rap or hip hop on the radio, but you went to MTV, you got introduced to these artists. If you had a little inkling of liking alternative like I did, you got to see these artists perform. If you were into metal, there was a place for you. There was really a place for everyone. I mean, unless you were a country music fan, like then they had the what was it, CMTV or something like that later on. I remember that. So it was just kind of it's definitely an iconic part of our childhood, of our teenage years, of our young adult years. It made an impression. And when you watch the videos now, some of them I'm like, oh my God, I totally remember this. And others I'm like, I don't remember this, but I know this song. And like there was Safety Dance, and I was like, oh my God, yes, they're like performing like it's old time. It feels very like, I don't know, Pied Piper kind of thing. It was just really cool. And getting to see, like Michael Jackson with his like videos that would come on, and Culture Club, and Prince, and Duran Duran, and Nirvana, and it was just such a cool time to be watching TV, because we really didn't have a lot of channels. Cable was just starting, because for the longest time you had very few channels, right? And then they would go off at midnight to static. First you'd hear the Star Spangled Banner, and then they would go to static. And, not everybody had cable. My parents, I definitely remember like HBO, I think was one of the first things. And, getting the cable box. And it was just such a unique time to grow up. And I do really feel sorry for kids today, because they don't get to experience what we got to experience. They didn't get to like come home from school and be like, okay, we gotta watch TRL because they're gonna do the video countdown, and maybe one of our favorite artists will be on there. And then you'd see people who would go to New York and get to sit in the audience and get to meet their favorite artist. Or you'd have the artist come and like announce their video, or we had like Kurt Lauder who would like do, the news. I mean, we would find out like when Kurt Cobain died, it was like MTV. When Aaliyah was killed, it was like MTV. Like things would happen. You knew when it was like breaking news, a little thing would come on. You're like, oh no, no, no. What is going on? And even think about how MTV influenced our generation to vote with Rock the Vote. And they had, Bill Clinton on. I know they invited Bush. He wouldn't talk to the young people. Hence why he lost, I think. Because we were like, excuse me, you're not gonna consider us, and we're young, and like this is our country, and you're going to dismiss us. Hell to the no. So it was just yeah, it was just a time. It was a special time. And I am so thankful to have grown up in a time where we had music television. And MTV completely changed. Like if you watch MTV now, which literally I have not watched it in years, maybe decades, they're not showing videos. Like I think MTV Classic sometimes does, and maybe MTV2, but it's not what it used to be, where it was just constant videos interjected with like, some shows, like I said, Liquid Television and Remote Control. And but I mean, even Weird Al, right? He would do parodies. I mean, obviously you guys know this, just parodies of videos like Eat It and like a surgeon. And that would be on MTV, which was just eh, just so cool. Like it's just amazing that this was even a thing, right? The fact that anyone would have thought, have um an entire channel dedicated to music that spawned other channels off of it, that you would have, the real world, where I remember in college watching, the first season in New York and just being like, oh my God, these people are having real conversations, and like it's getting deep and it's getting ugly, and then it went to LA, which was like, and then it went to Miami. And, watching the first person of our generation who was gay with HIV/AIDS, Pedro, and watching him deal with that, and being so young. And then he passed away, if I remember correctly. He passed away the night before the final episode of that season aired. So, and just how much he moved all of us, and how much he moved the people that he lived with. And it was, I mean, it was, that was groundbreaking, because you know as Gen Xers, like when the AIDS crisis started, and we started seeing what was happening, and then realizing it wasn't just gay people. And if you were hemophilic, we had like Ryan White, right? Kids could get it because of blood. And being told in school, like, you better, if you're going to have sex, you better wear a condom, because if you don't and you contract HIV/AIDS, that was a death sentence. That was a death sentence. And that was really scary, being having to be like, okay, now we have to have a conversation with people I want to sleep with. Like, do you have STDs? Are we having to go get tested? Like, it was terrifying. And seeing someone our age, living his life and teaching, and like going through so much, and unfortunately succumbing to the disease, it was like, it was an important thing for MTV to show. And I'm really glad that they did. I'm really glad they talked about things too, that they influenced us to vote, because, you know, it's important to participate in our democracy if we still have one after these 4 years. But it is important. And they did have an influence, because the thing is, like, you would hear for a while as we got older, and MTV kind of like didn't really play music as much anymore, music videos, and it became like just reality TV and weird shows and things and competitions. You would hear younger people being like, yeah, it's too hard to go vote, or I don't know, or my vote doesn't count. It's like, if you don't participate in our democracy, it's, first of all, it's not, you're not going to win. It's not like just because you vote, your team is going to win. But if you don't show up, then you don't have a voice, and you don't have a chance to influence the election, and hopefully to go your way. We're seeing the consequences of stuff going now, and part of it is these young people are like voting on things. They're like a one issue group, and the issue, they don't know what they're talking about. So I'm not going to get too political, but I'm just saying, like, what has that influence on Gen Z or like Gen Alpha now? I don't know. And I think because we don't have MTV having the conversations and stuff we did, like, kids are missing out. Critical thinking has gone out the window. Yeah, let's get back to the fun stuff, right? Remember, like, coming home, or like waiting for, like, okay, this video is going to premiere. You have to watch it this time. Like, you wanted to see the premiere of the video, and so that you could like call your friends and be like, did you see that? And like, it was just, and then like wait for it to come on again, because sometimes you're like, wait, I have to see this. And like, did I see that celebrity? Is this, when they would have celebrities, or just having iconic directors, making these videos, but also like the tropes, like the lazy videos of, yes, the concert shoots, which usually those weren't too bad, because they'd kind of shoot at different concerts, so it kind of blend together. But sometimes it's just like a really bad performance, and it was low budget. Like, the lighting was bad, the clothes were bad, the hair was bad. I mean, it was the 80s. And or you see like these artists that you just listen to, you're like, oh, okay, that's a look. Like, I remember I was never like a hair metal girl. Like, I do like Poison, and I did like, not really a Bon Jovi fan. Although I do think John Bon Jovi, nice looking, can fill a pair of jeans. But I would just remember watching them and being like, why are they wearing that? Why is their hair like that? And oh my God, I think they're wearing more eyeliner than I do, or any of my friends. Or like, Culture Club, and like looking at Boy George and being like, okay, I know he's a guy, but like, why is he like dressing like that? And then be like, I don't care. Like, you would try to figure it out. Like, I loved his music. He's brilliant. Didn't know at the time all those songs were about his drummer. I think we learned that from like behind the music. But like watching that, like trying to like figure out who these people were. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, yes, I know George Michael played for the other team, but I and many of my contemporaries thought he was stunning, which he was, and also had the greatest voice. I mean, I'm sorry, him, Faith, leading up, wearing those jeans and those cowboy boots and the leather jacket and his tush. Like, I'm sorry, I don't care. I don't care what team he played for. He was hot. Uh, and my mother later being like, "You didn't? What do you mean you didn't know he was gay? Hello?" And I was like, "Mom, again, it was the '80s. People wore neon. Guys were wearing like it was kind of androgynous sometimes." She's like, "It didn't matter that the short shorts or whatever. I knew he was gay, and y'all just didn't." Or like misinterpreting videos. So as I've told the story before, my best friend and I did a little performance in the fifth grade to Olivia Newton-John's "Let's Get Physical." Now we were influenced to do a workout performance in our little leotards and leg warmers because we thought the song was about actual working out because that's what she's doing in the video. She's got these fat, unattractive, sweaty, gross men that she's getting to work out and they turn into hot men. So we literally, and she's in a workout outfit. So, like, this is what we thought it was about. No. No, 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 no. It was not about that. It was about a working out, a workout that you would do in your bedroom, hopefully with a condom. So, like, and then sometimes also like seeing things and going, oh, oh, that's what that means. Or just like watching these like rock stars or like these women that are like scantily clad, like Tawny Katane, right? Um, Spread eagle on a car, and I'm like, okay, iconic, not really cool, right? Because like honestly, this is how you're gonna treat women. Or I did see a Tiffany video. I think We're Alone Now, which is actually a remake of a Beatles song, and she was performing in the mall, and I'm like, oh my god, I forgot about how like Tiffany and New Kids on the Block and Debbie Gibson and like would go to malls and put on concerts. Like it was, and they would film those, they would use those for videos. So, or you'd get to watch the performance. So it's just funny, like watching these videos, and they bring me such joy. Some of them are like, I'm like, okay, so here's some of the tropes. You're a rock star and you're like on the roof of a building, not like the iconic U2 video, but where the streets have no name. No, I'm talking about you're a rock star and like you're either on a rooftop pining away for someone and just singing and like your head's this way and your head's that way, kind of like ABBA influenced, and or you're walking down the street and you're like singing your heart out. It's an abandoned street, you're in an abandoned warehouse harassing women because it, yeah. Or the women would just be like posing or just wearing the weirdest things. And I'm like, what are you doing? I saw a Lionel Richie video that had the guys that were in like Break In and Break Into Electric Boogaloo because they were dancers. And it was just neon everywhere and dancing and like break dancing. And it's just like, oh my God, could this be any more 80s than it was? It was, it was a special time. It really was. And I'd love to know if you have any favorite videos or any ones that bring you fondness if you see them. Do you ever go on, sometimes I'll go on YouTube and watch like George Michael, Depeche Mode, Prince. I was watching an Ice House video, Electric Blue. I watched Carly Simon because her and Alanis Morissette just recently redid her song "Coming Around Again," which I love that song. It it's such a good song, and Alanis Morissette's version is just so heart-wrenching and moving. Um, it's also really cool. There's this group called Not a Toy, and their song "Doomsday Holiday" just kind of randomly ran across it on TikTok. And if you look in the comments, every Gen Xer is like, "Oh my god, this sounds like Nine Inch Nails." So they did like a little blend with the Nine Inch Nails. It sounds like a Nine Inch Nails song. Speaking of which, I've seen some parents show their kids old videos and they were or show them or let them listen to like Nine Inch Nails, "I Want to F You Like an Animal." And the kids are like, "Oh my god, what, you listen to this? This is," and I'm like, yeah, yeah. And this song is freaking awesome. I think they're touring again. I mean, Trent Reznor, brilliant. I think he's won an Academy Award. Like we got introduced to like Eminem, and I think there's a documentary coming out about stands. I will say, I'm about to wrap this up, but like it feels like nostalgia is in the air. There's so many movies and concerts. Like you can watch Prince, um, go to a theater and watch him. There's a Jeff Buckley documentary that I recently went to see with a friend of mine. Loved him, 90s, brilliant died way too young. Breakfast Club is coming back in theaters. I think they're doing a tour with like Better Off Dead. There's other movies. I think Back to the Future is going to come back into theaters. So there is a longing for these movies and these concerts from our childhood. I think there's going to be a Depeche Mode one, which I bought a VHS of their videos, Enjoy the Silence, and watch it over and over again because I was obsessed with them in high school. This is kind of a rambly one, but like just looking back, sometimes I just like to do these rambly ones that just kind of let me reminisce, and I hope that you enjoy the ride. You guys do seem to like my solo uh my solo ramble. So hopefully it's because I'm telling a good story. So anyways, we're going to wrap this up. But yes, I'd love to know if you have any favorite videos that you are like remember fondly, if you've watched any of the MTV2 or MTV Classic from this week that's been playing. If you do go on YouTube, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. And again, do not forget to follow the podcast on Instagram and TikTok, the GenX Experience Pod. I make announcements there. It's a fun little community. More on TikTok because Gen X is on TikTok. Let me just tell you, there's a whole community on TikTok. It is a little bit on Instagram, but like it's really blown up on TikTok. So I think it's pissing Gen Z off a little bit because they're coming at us, which is not very smart. And then they'll say things about us that are like, you don't know who we are. Don't poke the bear. So anyway, with that, my fellow MTV generationers, my fellow Gen Xers, thank you for tuning in. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, and stay tuned next week. I will be talking with another fellow Gen Xer about MTV and music and how it really just kind of what it meant to us as kids and teenagers and how that evolved. Maybe we'll get into like singer songwriters because I also saw a video on TikTok, someone talking about Sarah McLachlan, and I was like, oh God, I went through that phase. I love her anyways, but I'm like, I went through that phase where I was like, I really want to listen to singer songwriters because I'm a writer and I just appreciate, and I still do. I love them. I appreciate them so much more, but I thought I was super deep, and I was like, I'm cool because I'm listening to Sarah McLachlan. I'm so deep. Never got to go to Lilith Fair, but anyway, I'm going to stop talking. But stay tuned. 2 more episodes coming up this month, and our first book. I almost said Bit Club. Our first book club pick will be coming up as well. So, without further ado, my fellow Gen Xers, until next time, don't you forget about me because I will not forget about you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the Gen X Experience. If today's episode resonated with you, please consider sharing it on social media or with a friend. We'll see you back here next time.